Yeah, hello. Another thing I like to talk about is skill in fencing, developing skill. So I'm speaking as a learner. I'm not speaking as a fencing master. People say I'm something like an intermediate level guy at the moment. But as a learner, like I've got things to say that from a learner's perspective that I think it would be helpful to my friends, which is really why I'm making these videos, but also to anybody else who wants to pay attention to this stuff on YouTube. Okay, in another video, I was talking about how to develop strength for fencing, like, or at least what you can do at home to do that. And that's primarily drilling the lunge thing because you're developing muscles. It's also a very important technique, but you're developing strength. However, you can also develop skill by yourself at home, which will transfer over to the SAL. We call the SAL like basically the fencing gym. It's a traditional word for it. It means room. So besides, of course, drilling the lunge, and it's good to, or the half step if you like. It's good to hold the sword, develop, get some strength. So of course, good to actually practice the lunge, right? And we'll talk about the lunge and thrust in a minute. But also to drill the stepping, right? Now, there are a lot of subtleties to this, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm keeping my feet about the same distance apart. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're already practicing fencing, but this is obviously something that you can drill. And it's always good to keep the weapon in your hand if you can, because that's the real balance, that's the real feel of the fight. So make it as realistic as you can. And a lot of this, and you don't have to just do one step, you could do two steps, whatever you like. I find that it's easier to just do one step. So often if I'm tired, that might be just all I feel like doing. Now, I can also do like a step lunge. So step, and then you can go into a lunge like that, right? That's one thing. Something that I like to say about the step lunge is, you can, a lot of the sources say to actually bring your back foot up very close to your front foot to get more distance. Because often a step lunge is where you're chasing the guy who's going backwards. Right, so instead of here, and then lunge, which you could do, if he's further back, you might want to take the step, bring this very close, right, very close, and then go forward. Like Degrassi says this. A lot of, in modern foil fencing, they do this. A lot of the sources have that, right? So that's one thing. So it's a step, then you bring the back foot up close, and that gets you even more distance. Okay, so those are sort of some things. I'm not at the level yet of the jump thing, whatever. Some people do that, I guess but I'm not, that's not something I've figured out too much for myself yet. Okay, now in terms of the thrusts, what I found myself doing, which was a mistake, was when I was doing what is called secunda. If you're studying rapier, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is for people that know a little bit about the stuff. I was keeping my guard too far out to the side. What ended up happening is that my sword would get caught on the opponent's sword. I'd basically be parrying myself coming in. In order to sneak past the guy's sword and actually get a little bit more distance, I have to keep this, see how it's very, very straight with my shoulder? I have to keep it quite straight, right? Of course, having it slightly out, maybe there's whole sorts of finesse you put into this, but basically it has to be quite straight, or else I'm not going to be able to achieve the target. I'm going to get caught somewhere, all right? And then of course with the other side, see, it's easier though to do quarta, just the physical mechanics of it is easier to keep the sword in line with quarta. But secunda, I find it harder. You have to really make the effort when you're drilling this to keep this in very much a straight line, not like that so much, okay? Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about why the rapier style fencing seems to be so different from slightly earlier kinds of fencing, like the Bolognese style or whatever. And the answer is clear, is because they use shields. And the shield changes everything up. So, I grab, here's a big shield for you, just to sort of make the point. Having this thing in my hand changes a lot of things, right? Degrassi recommends keeping it mostly straight out. Different authors will have different things about it. It's quite complex how you use all this stuff. But in any case, when you're using a shield, you're often keeping the arms about like both out at the same time, which means it sort of doesn't always matter too much which foot is in front. Okay, so right away that changes the kind of steps you might take. A lot more passing steps, a lot of stuff where actually the reverse foot might be in front and you're doing things. But it also changes the kind of thrust that you would do and the kind of guards you would have. So for example, I would want to get around the guy's shield a lot of times. He'll have his shield on that side of his body. right? So that's where these kinds of thrusts start to become a thing. See how they're very wide, right? And like Degrassi doesn't even have a real guard with the sword on the left side because it's already guarded by the shield. So you can see how these things start to become a thing. But if you get rid of the shield, well, if I'm trying to protect myself like this, a little bit less convincing, right? Unless I was thinking of it as a bigger system or trying to get around shields. So that's one of the main reasons why earlier fencing styles look a lot different from later fencing styles, because you're dealing with a two-weapon system, or a primarily two-weapon system, like a right-handed weapon and a left-handed weapon. Good. Well, I think that's all that I really wanted to say for today. So just remember, keep that secunda almost like perfectly straight, almost. So you're covering a little bit, protecting a little bit on this side, but you can actually get past the person, right? The left side, cuarta is easier, right? And all kinds of footwork practice. And this will improve your fencing. It's absolutely improving mine. Okay, thank you very much. Au revoir. Bye-bye.